There are some secrets that protect the people you love, and there are some secrets that protect you from the people you love. I carried one for 52 years, and I'm still not sure which kind it was. My name is Eleanor. I'm 80 years old. My husband James died 3 years ago, and he went to his grave believing our marriage was built on complete honesty. It wasn't. There was something I never told him. Something that happened in 1970, 2 years after we were married. And now that he's gone, I'm left wondering if keeping that secret was the right thing to do, or if I was just too afraid to face what the truth might cost me. James and I met in 1966 at a library in Boston. I was 26, working as a secretary at a law firm. He was 28, a graduate student studying architecture. I was returning a book when I accidentally knocked over his stack of research materials. Papers went everywhere. He helped me pick them up, and we started talking. 3 months later, he asked me to marry him. We got married in the spring of 1968, and I thought I'd found the person I was meant to spend my life with. James was everything I wasn't. He was confident, outgoing, ambitious. He had plans. He wanted to start his own architecture firm, design buildings that would outlast us both. I loved that about him. I loved his certainty, his vision. I was quieter, more cautious. I liked routines and safety. But with James, I felt like I could be part of something bigger. The first 2 years of our marriage were good. We lived in a small apartment in Cambridge. James was finishing his degree, and I was still working at the firm. We didn't have much money, but we were happy. We'd stay up late talking about the future, about the house we'd buy someday, the children we'd have. James would sketch buildings on napkins during dinner, and I'd listen to him talk about light and structure and permanence. I didn't always understand what he meant, but I loved hearing him talk about it. Then, in the summer of 1970, something happened that changed everything. James had just finished his master's degree. He'd been offered a position at a prestigious firm in New York, and he was so excited. It was everything he'd worked for. The job would pay well, give him connections, set him up to start his own practice someday. We were supposed to move at the end of August, but in July I found out I was pregnant. I hadn't planned it. We'd talked about having children eventually, but not yet. James wanted to get established first. He'd said, "Let's wait a few years, get our feet under us, then we'll start a family." I'd agreed, but birth control wasn't as reliable back then, and sometimes things just happen. When I saw the test results, I didn't know what to feel. Part of me was happy. I'd always wanted to be a mother. But another part of me was terrified, because I knew what this would mean for James. The timing was terrible. We were about to move. He was starting a new job. A baby would complicate everything. I thought about telling him right away. I thought about sitting him down that night and just saying it, but I didn't. I told myself I'd wait a few days, find the right moment. But the right moment never came. And the longer I waited, the harder it became. A week went by, then 2 weeks. James was busy preparing for the move, saying goodbye to professors, packing up our apartment. He was so focused on the future, on this next chapter of his life. And I kept thinking, if I tell him now, everything will change. He'll have to rethink the job. He'll have to rethink New York. He'll have to put his dreams on hold. And I couldn't do that to him. Or maybe I couldn't do that to us. I don't know. All I know is that I made a decision. I decided not to tell him. Not yet. Not until after the move. But then something else happened. About 3 weeks after I found out I was pregnant, I started bleeding. It was late at night. James was asleep. I got up and went to the bathroom, and I knew immediately what was happening. I was having a miscarriage. I sat on the bathroom floor for I don't know how long. I didn't cry. I didn't make a sound. I just sat there, feeling this strange mix of grief and relief. And I hated myself for feeling relieved. I hated myself for being grateful that the decision had been taken out of my hands. James never woke up. The next morning, I cleaned everything up, and I went to work like nothing had happened. I didn't go to a doctor. I didn't tell anyone. I just carried it alone. And I never told James, not that day, not that month, not ever. We moved to New York in August, just like we'd planned. James started his job. I found work at another law firm. Our life went on. And the pregnancy, the miscarriage, all of it became this thing that only I knew about. This private grief that I carried by myself. At first, I told myself I'd tell him eventually. I'd find the right time, the right words. But weeks turned into months, and months turned into years, and it became harder and harder to bring it up. How do you tell someone something like that after so much time has passed? How do you say, by the way, 10 years ago I was pregnant and I didn't tell you? It felt impossible, so I didn't. James and I went on to have 3 children. Our daughter was born in 1973. Our 2 sons came later in 1976 and 1979. James was a wonderful father. He adored those kids. He'd come home from work and spend hours playing with them, reading to them, teaching them things. He was present in a way a lot of fathers weren't back then. And every time I watched him with them, I'd think about that first pregnancy, the one he never knew about. And I'd wonder what would have happened if I'd told him. Would he have resented me? Would he have given up the job in New York? Would our life have been different? I'll never know, because I never gave him the chance to answer those questions. Over the years, I almost told him a few times. There were moments when it felt like the right thing to do. Once, when our daughter was a teenager and we were talking about honesty and trust, James said, "I'm glad we've never kept secrets from each other." And I almost said it right then. I almost told him everything, but I didn't. I just nodded and changed the subject. Another time, years later, we were at a friend's house for dinner. The friend's wife had recently had a miscarriage, and she was talking about how hard it had been, how isolating. James turned to me after we left and said, "I can't imagine going through something like that and not being able to talk about it." And I wanted to tell him. I wanted to say, "I know exactly what that's like." But I didn't. I just agreed with him and let the moment pass. The truth is, I was afraid. I was afraid of what he'd think of me. I was afraid he'd feel betrayed. I was afraid he'd wonder what else I'd kept from him. And I was afraid that telling him would change the way he saw our marriage, our life together. So I kept it to myself for 52 years. James got sick in 2019, pancreatic cancer. The doctor said he had maybe a year. He lasted 14 months. During that time, I stayed by his side. I took him to appointments. I held his hand. I told him I loved him every single day. And every single day I thought about telling him the truth. But I never did. A few weeks before he died, we were sitting together in the living room. He was too weak to do much, but his mind was still sharp. He looked at me and said, "Eleanor, I want you to know that you've been the best thing in my life. I don't have any regrets. Do you?" And I said, "No, no regrets." And he smiled and he held my hand and he said, "Good. That's all I needed to hear." And I lied to him. One last time. James died on a Tuesday morning. I was holding his hand. Our kids were there. It was peaceful. And after it was over, after everyone had left, I sat alone in our bedroom and I thought about that pregnancy from 1970. I thought about the girl I was back then, terrified and alone on a bathroom floor. I thought about all the years I carried that secret, all the times I almost told him and didn't. And I wondered if I'd made the right choice. I still don't know. Sometimes I think I kept the secret to protect him, to protect our marriage, to protect the life we built together. I think about how happy we were, how much we loved each other, and I tell myself that telling him wouldn't have changed anything. It would have just hurt him. It would have made him doubt me, doubt us, and for what? To ease my own guilt? But other times, I think I kept the secret to protect myself, because I was ashamed, because I didn't want to face his disappointment, because I didn't want to admit that I'd made a choice without him, that I'd carried something so important alone. And I wonder if that makes me a coward. Here's what I've learned. Secrets aren't just about what you hide. They're about what you deny the other person. When you keep a secret from someone you love, you're not just protecting them or yourself. You're making a choice about what kind of relationship you're willing to have. You're deciding that there are parts of you they don't get to know. And maybe that's okay sometimes. Maybe some secrets are meant to stay buried, but maybe some secrets are just walls you build because you're too afraid to be fully known. I kept a secret from James for 52 years, and now that he's gone, I'll never know what would have happened if I'd told him. I'll never know if he would have understood. I'll never know if it would have brought us closer or pushed us apart. All I know is that I made a choice, and I have to live with it. If you're keeping a secret from someone you love, I can't tell you whether to share it or not. I can't tell you if honesty is always the right answer. But I can tell you this. Whatever you decide, make sure it's a choice you can live with. Because one day, the person you're keeping the secret from will be gone. And you'll be left alone with the truth. And you'll have to decide if the silence was worth it. I'm 80 years old. My husband has been gone for 3 years. And I'm still carrying a secret he'll never know. I don't know if that was the right thing to do. I don't know if it was love or fear or some combination of both. All I know is that it's too late to change it now, and I have to find a way to live with that.